Building a personal brand can separate you from the less than competition. It can create it to where you're not chasing your clients anymore, but rather they start to chase you. This episode of the Think Bigger Real Estate Show is going to be a unique one because we have one of the best in class marketers and personal brand experts here with us today. And we're going to go deep on not only building a personal brand, but one that drives business. This is going to be an episode you're not going to want to miss. We're excited to introduce today's guest. Stay with us. So the big question is this: how do those of us in the real estate industry who have crazy amounts of ambition, how do we think bigger than the building of our own empires? How do we create success and significance, income and impact? My name is Justin Stoddard. This is my co-host Stephanie Peck. And together we bring you the Think Bigger Real Estate Podcast. All right, welcome everybody back to this episode. So excited to introduce, first and foremost, my amazing co-host, Stephanie Peck. Hello, Stephanie.
Hello, I am so excited for today. I know Buck is going to bring some amazing energy and some great things that are going to help us all with our business.
Buck is going to bring the heat, and you let the cat out of the bag. This is Buck Wise, everybody. If you don't know him, you will soon know him, and you will learn to love him and recognize, as I mentioned before, one of the best marketers of our time. Absolutely brilliant. And we're thrilled to have him here today to teach us all about personal branding in a way, again, that grows your business. So Buck, such a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
Justin, Stephanie, thanks for having me here. You know, I heard you talking about our discussion today around personal brand. I believe John Maxwell says it best. One of his irrefutable laws of business is the law of magnetization. And when you have a great personal brand, you're attracting the right people into your network. And if you know anything about business, if you've had any success at all, you know it really is about people. It's about how many people can you connect with. So why wouldn't you invest in your ability to attract better people into your world, unless you're comfortable? This is not the podcast for you if you're comfortable. You're going to want to go ahead and just log off right now. This is not for you.
Amen to that. Appreciate that, Buck. For those that want to know you a little bit better, right? You've obviously built and sold multiple marketing agencies, worked for some of the biggest brands in the world, and now are hyper-focused on helping entrepreneurs build successful brands and businesses. So we're excited to get into that today.
Awesome.
And also, I've had the good fortune of having your wife, Allie, on the podcast several years ago.
I remember that. I remember when she was on. Yeah. You know, and her life changed significantly since that day, Justin. She's worth billions of dollars now ever since being on this podcast. You know,
hey, that's an update I hadn't heard. That's exciting. I'll add that to our show notes.
Right.
Buck, let's dive right in. I know that everyone that's listening to this episode at least has a basic concept that the bigger their brand, the easier business comes. But we really want to go down that path deeper and really help them to see it's not just about beating their own chest and having a statue about themselves, but it can really mean for them more business and, more importantly, better business. Yeah. So help us see kind of why you've really devoted your professional career and life to this cause of helping people do exactly that.
Yeah, the first thing everybody says is, well, I don't really have a personal brand. And some people say, I don't think I need one. Here's the truth. And you got to wrap your head around this. You have a brand. The question is, are you in control of it? So at the very least, even if you don't want more success, even if you don't want more money, don't you want control of the narrative of who you are, how you show up, and what you do every day? Because otherwise, that is the perception. In marketing, we know perception is reality. So if you're not showing up, the perception is you're out of business. The perception is you don't care. And we know 90% of clients are going to search you before they actually end up working with you. So what is that? What story is being told about you online right now? And wouldn't it be great if you could be so intentional, so strategic that you close the gap on the sales cycle, get people to trust you faster, and close more relationships? Notice I said relationships, because that's really what social is about. I mean, the word is social. You're trying to be social with other people and make connections and build relationships. You know, if I go all the way back, Stephanie, Justin, to the beginning of my career, I worked for iHeartRadio for 15 years, and I really crafted the creative aspect of storytelling, which ultimately, when we take this moneymaker That's what we're doing. We're telling micro stories online every day in a way that connects and resonates with somebody else so that they go, hey, this person is someone that can solve my challenge. And I need to know who this person is. I need to make the connection with this person. And that's what I crafted at a very young age. I was syndicated to 45 markets. I worked with Ryan Seacrest for 2 years out of Los Angeles. And I was really honing that creative element of personal brand. Now, the part that most entrepreneurs miss, I believe, is strategy. Understanding why, understanding how, instead of just failing fast and creating for the sake of creating. Wouldn't you want to just get a better ROI? Wouldn't you want a better relationship out of doing it the right way? So I think that's where I spend most of my time, honestly, is crafting the strategy, the upfront, before you start your brand. Is like, why are we doing this? What are the goals that we're trying to create, and how do we get there faster?
I think most real estate agents that are listening to this episode, if we were to ask them what's their personal brand strategy, my guess is they probably haven't thought through that. They thought about strategy is to sell more homes easier, and that's the outcome, right? But it's not really the strategy,
right? Yeah.
What does that look like to create a strategy? Help us down that.
Sure. I'd love to. It's a passion of mine to help people get more organized and educated on who they are, why they exist, how they're different, why they do what they do, what emotions do you want people to have, what behaviors do you want to create. At the end of the day, though, your personal brand is your equity. So when you go into like, what is your goal? And people say, I just want to sell more houses. It's very transactional in nature to think of your personal brand as a way to just make money. Yes, that's the ultimate effect, right? Ultimately, that's why we're doing what we're doing, because we want to get more leads, right? We want to lock in some cash. Well, we have to think about the reason we want to do that. We want to do that because we want freedom, right? We want to help other people. We want to create a legacy to some degree. For some people, it's their children, it's their family. So really diving into what you're trying to achieve as a human helps determine what are the pillars that your brand stands for. But the best equity you're ever going to have in your business is your personal brand. Let me tell you why. Because let's say you're selling houses today, but let's say you're building another business tomorrow. The good news is relationships never go away. If you create a connection and you build a relationship, think about Elon Musk. He builds PayPal and he sells it. When he leaves PayPal, he doesn't have any IP. He doesn't get access to the employees. He doesn't get the data. He doesn't get the automation. He doesn't get any of the algorithms that were created for PayPal. He walks away. He gets cash. But the more important thing was he earned equity in his brand and who he was. So when he said, I'm going to start the world's most successful electric car company, was it easier or harder for him to attract amazing engineers from around the world based on his success with PayPal?
Yeah, way easier.
There's more equity in his name than the cash he received from PayPal. That's how he sends rockets to the moon. Because it's Elon Musk. Everybody wants to go learn. Everybody wants to go work. It's easy for him to magnetize and attract people to him. So the question isn't how many houses do you want to sell? It's how many people do you want to attract into your life, and how are those people going to help? How are you going to help them, and how are they going to help you, as you guys are both trying to achieve goals together? I'd really get more intentional about that. But the two most important things, Justin, to answer your question specifically, the two most important things that everybody needs to think about as you're creating and storytelling. By the way, I want to mention, video storytelling is the secret sauce to your personal brand. If you think you're going to create carousels with graphic images of beautiful open houses and Easter eggs and holidays or whatever else you're doing, that is not your personal brand. 97% of the internet traffic in 2024 is video, and it's short form social media content storytelling. So this is your personal brand. Getting comfortable speaking and telling stories in this little moneymaker is how you're going to develop a reputation online. People want to know who you are. They're not going to get that from a perfectly poised headshot with you and some writing next to it on a graphic. That's not personal branding. It could be a part of it, but the core is you talking, like what Justin and Stephanie are doing right now. You guys are speaking, people are getting to know you, they've learned more about you, you're doing it on a format called a podcast, and then you're probably cutting these up and making micro clips that you're sharing in social so people can get little highlights and get an idea of who you are, which earns trust ultimately. But the two most important things, strategy. Who are you and who are they? Who are you? Why do you exist? What do you do? How do you build content pillars? You know, the number one question everybody says is, Buck, I'll do it, I'm ready, but I don't know what to say. Well, that's what strategy is going to give you. Is like, this is what you should be talking about right now. Okay, number two, who is the consumer? Do you know who you're trying to attract? Now, number one mistake every entrepreneur makes is they go wide. They go real wide. They immediately just say, hey, I'm in real estate. If you're looking to sell a house, you're looking to buy a house, you want to invest in a house, I'm your agent. Let's do work together. And we know when you're talking to everybody, Stephanie, who are you really talking to?
You're talking to nobody.
Nobody. And that's the biggest mistake. The way I know somebody has no strategy is they cast that wide net. They're just trying to, they don't want to miss one single persona or target. You know, look, maybe you're a new agent, maybe you're an experienced agent, or you're a luxury agent, or you're, you know, into new home buy. Like you just, you're so insecure because you don't know who you're talking to that you're just doing that, what we call shotgun approach. You're just trying to scatter to everybody. And nobody feels special. And nobody feels like you solved their problem, right? We don't want to go get a burger at a seafood restaurant. So when you go wide, you're trying to sell pizza at a burger shop. You know, and people that want a burger want a good burger because they're like, you're the burger guy. You're the burger girl. Like, let me come to you because you're the expert in this thing that I need solved. That's how you earn trust faster. So really knowing the target, which I've got years of experience building out targets, avatars, personas. One of my favorite ones, you guys may have heard this before. I worked for Starbucks for 2 years and we had to determine the drinker of a pumpkin spice latte. It took us 6 months and millions of dollars of research. But, you know, it's just really interesting because you think you know why a consumer would do business with you. But until you intimately understand them, you're always going to miss that one emotional mark that really drives the decision. And so you got to get intimate. That's the best advice I could give you is, Buck, I know my persona, 35-year-old, male, occupation, average salary. That's not knowing who they are. Who do they make decisions with? Who do they get advice from? What's the first thing they do when they wake up? Do you know your target? The first thing, first of all, most people don't even know what their core target is. I'll give you an easy way to do that. Go back to your GCI from the year before. And I want you to look at what created the top line revenue for your organization or your corporation last year. That is your number one persona. Wow, I did a lot. I did like new home and I did like a couple of, no. If you know your data, there's only one. There's no way you went 50-50 across two personas. You over-indexed with somebody and that's your core target. The reason I say that's your core target is because it is easier to replicate what you have. It's easier to duplicate what you know. It's easier to automate what already exists. And so that's why I say focus in on that. Now, if you're going to come to me and say, Buck, market data suggests that this persona is no longer spending money and I need to make a shift, then that's a different research. That's a different phase. But for the most part, I've never been steered wrong by saying, let's capitalize on what you're already creating traction and success on. And let's dive into the data and really determine, how are we finding these people? How are they getting them to trust us? How are we converting? How are we retaining them? How are we leveraging them as ambassadors to create more connections and create more wealth? You know, there's just so many different avenues we could go down. Anyway, Justin, long-winded answer, but the two most important things is know your brand, know your target. Those are the two most important things. Once you know that, you can create. Now we can create the fun part.
I love it. Buck, that was a fantastic answer. One of the best I've heard. Maybe the best, let's be honest.
Wow, look at this. I'm putting that on my LinkedIn. Justin said so.
Stephanie, I know you have dozens of questions, and because I know this is something that you're passionate about, and you really look to Buck as you know, an expert in the space. So let's hear from you. What questions are on your mind?
Yeah, another thing that came to mind as Buck was talking about identifying who our audience is, I also want to add, who do you love to work with and who do you love to serve? And we can look back on data, and I might say, I worked with mostly first-time home buyers in 1 year, but I also look back and say, who was I most excited to work with? Because that excitement is going to transfer. And that excitement is easy for me to express on video and on social media. That was part of my path, was determining who am I most excited to work with. And it turns out that it's the person that I most related to, which made it really easy for me to identify my ideal client as someone that wants to leave the city and buy in a rural community and start their hobby farm. So what I've done around that is all of my social media is about my hobby farm life. It's about the tomatoes that I'm growing, and it's about the kids making salsa and showing the jars. And it's so easy and so natural to do that. Buck, I see you doing that a lot on your social media, where you have your niche and you stick with that. And I'm also seeing you on your stories. You're a dad, you're in the pool with the kids, you're having fun. Your brand is your lifestyle. So tell us more about how someone can be identifying their lifestyle within their brand and the benefits of that.
Yeah, absolutely. What you've done, Stephanie, is fantastic. Congrats on your success, by the way. You've created a personal brand. Oh, what did I say? A personal brand? Oh, the word personal is in the brand. So you're not just talking about education all day. You're actually going to show your life. Okay, that's step number one. It's called personal brand. But what you've done is you've created an association. There's a familiarity with what you do and what other people want to do. And I say that a lot of the times as an entrepreneur, it's the full package. I show myself in the gym working out because entrepreneurs are high performers. They're magnetized and attracted to the fact that I take care of myself. I play with the kids. I over-index. My target has kids, knows kids, loves kids, or wants kids. So I show those kids as a way for them to be relatable. And the more relatable you are, you're going to hear this word from me over and over, the faster somebody trusts you. Because if I didn't have kids and I didn't work out and I was a fat slob and I didn't create content, and I tell everybody you got to create content every day, but I didn't do it, then nobody would believe me. I'd have no authority. I'd have no credibility. So you got to practice what you preach to some degree. And that's the most important thing, is when you're creating your brand, is really honing in on what stories in your day are going to be most relatable to your target. Now you have to be careful. I'm going to give you a caveat here. I'm a data marketer. I look deep into information to inform strategy, which informs creative. So if you're following along today, let me give you this real quick. We're going to turn this podcast into a masterclass. Are we ready? Okay, we're going to workshop this. We're going to workshop this. Data has to feed your strategy. A strategy without data is just an idea. Okay. Oh, I have a strategy. Where'd you get the information that informed your strategy? Where'd you get it from? I don't know. It just came up with. I just thought it was a good idea. It's a good idea. This strategy is an idea, unless it's fed with market information, persona target information. It's fed with past business KPIs. Like, what are you feeding into this to make the decision? Once you have the strategy, now we get to create, right? And this is where all entrepreneurs start. They're like, I'm going to have a podcast. I'm going to go on live. I'm going to make t-shirts and I'm going to put a logo on it. I'm going to, get on the bus benches all around town. I'm going to get a bus bench. They're like, create. Okay, wait a minute. What was the strategy? Okay. And where did the data come to feed the strategy? So going back to my point, I'm a data marketer. So let's talk about personal brand and adding lifestyle content to Stephanie's point. One, which lifestyle content should I be sharing? I've got so many different angles on this. I have some successful entrepreneurs that say to me, Buck, I am successful. I have a Rolls Royce, and I want to show people, but I'm scared of the implication of what does that look like if I'm showing my Rolls Royce online, right? you want to show the credibility of your life, the fact that you've created wealth and success, but you have to be careful how you do it. So the answer is always share, but it's not what you share, it's how you share it. So if you think about somebody's personal life, trying to, a lot of people are scared to show their success and wealth. A lot of people are scared to show it. But if you think about how you do it, let's take the Rolls Royce for an example. Hey, yo, check out my Rolls Royce. They got a holder for the umbrella right in the door. I bet you didn't know that because you don't have a Rolls Royce, right? That's one way to do it, right? Or what about this? This Rolls Royce means so much to me. When I was 16, I was with my dad. I remember seeing it for the first time. And at the time, we were on government breakfast. We were barely making it as a family. And I knew that if I stayed dedicated, found the right mentors, and built something, that I could create the same freedom and independence, success, and wealth in my life. You see the difference in the way you approach the same story, the same content? It's not what, it's how you relate it to the consumer at the end of the day. So one, should I share personal things? Absolutely. Number two, there's a fear of opinion. People feel like giving access into their personal life is going to get them retribution to some degree. And it might. Welcome to entrepreneurship. It's called risk. And you're going to take some. And the more risk you have, the more wealth you can create. Other people's opinion, you may look at a risk. I don't. Because anybody opinionated on what I'm doing and how I'm doing it is not my client. I know my clients so well that the people who are going to hate on me are going to be family members who go, oh, what Buck thinks he's a influencer now? Oh, Stephanie just shares too much content. Nobody gives a crap about that much stuff in her day. Not your client. Buy, unsubscribe, unfollow. You are a waste to my ROI. I don't want you in there anyway because you're just being negative. So many people are worried about their old college friends or their old boyfriend or girlfriend. These people are not building you success in your life. They're not creating wealth for you. So one, stop focusing on people who are never going to build your future. And then number three, let's go back to the data point. I study the data to inform my decision. So do I know that most entrepreneurs relate to me because I have children and they have children too? Absolutely. Now, if I study, one day I said, wow, I put Charlie, my 5-year-old girl, on my Instagram, and I had like 50 messages. And 2 of them were like, when are we going to talk, by the way? I really need your help with personal branding. And I was like, wow, my 5-year-old daughter, she's the secret. She's the secret. More daughter. Study the data. So I put my daughter on like 15 times in a day, right? Oh, she's so cute, right? Study the data. The data shows a decline in viewership. People don't expect to come to me for a daycare. They like it in small doses. So what we do is we create something called content pillars. Okay? Content pillars look like this. This is exactly what it sounds like. Those are pillars. Okay? So your personal life, education, motivation, inspiration, what percentage? I found that my children, let's call this C for children. My children are 2%. If you watch my Instagram right now, you're going to get 2% kids. That's the sweet spot. You saw them yesterday. They went to a bike ramp. I showed 3 15-second clips of my boys, 1 10-second clip of my daughter. That's it. That's our max, 2%. The rest is you're going to see me at a podcast with Andy Elliott. You're going to see me on this podcast now with you guys. So you're going to see 2 pieces of education, maybe a little bit of inspiration. I'm going to motivate a little bit later today with some ideas around how to create more positivity in your decision making. But I'm probably like 60% education, 10% motivation, 10% inspiration. Those are your pillars, right? And you can break those out. For some people, it's 5% travel, 2% food reviews, 3% neighborhoods, 7% relocation, 8%. You figure out what your pillars are. Data feeds the strategy, strategy feeds the creative. Now, but what do I create? Well, your data shows this is what works, this is what resonates, this is what's interesting, this is what makes connection and magnetizes the right people to you. So that's part of what we do at Closing Day Agency is we help people build those pillars. And then every week we send them their concepts. We say, based on your brand, based on your target, here are your pillars. Now inside of those pillars, here are 20 ideas, thought starters, what we call prompts. Okay, I don't even know what to say. Here's your prompt, right? So if Stephanie were working with us right now, would it be like what's the easiest way to start a tomato farm, and what does the weather need to be in order for it to be successful? Could I do it anywhere, or do I have to be in a particular area? And then she would go, oh, this is easy. I love that, right? She didn't have to think about it though. She already knows these things. She's busy. She's dealing with, new business, podcasts, things that she's doing all day. So we make it easy. The number one thing we do is we save people time, and then we definitely get better results than if you had done it on your own. The question I have for most entrepreneurs is, if you're investing in your logo and your business and all the equipment and the mic for your podcast, why would you not invest in somebody's ability to help you get there faster? Why would you not invest in yourself? Nobody sees themselves as something to invest in, right? So why would you not invest in your own personal brand, build equity faster, save you time, get better results, and connect with more people quicker? The third thing I'm going to say, are you right to work with us or not? Are you long-term focused? If you're looking for a magic pill in 30 days, this is not the opportunity to work with us. But if you're looking for long-term growth and you're committed, minimum committed 6 months, because you aren't going to get traction like you're supposed to until you do exactly what I tell you to do for 6 months. If you're serious about long-term growth and you're building a real big equity play for yourself, then we are the right partner. Otherwise, we don't look for people going for magic pills. But that would be, does that help you guys a little bit? I know I went hard on lifestyle and I started building pillars. It was a great question, Stephanie. Do you think that's helpful?
Yeah, that's incredibly helpful. If our audience is real estate agents, we should be looking at the data, right? Like we don't walk into a home and say, oh, well, I like the color of your couch, so your home is worth this much. Mm-hmm. We're looking at the data. So we've got to be doing the same thing for our business and the same thing for our personal brand. And you know what the beautiful thing is if Instagram is your platform, for example, it tells you it's on there. So once I started doing that, looking at the data on Instagram, and not just how many likes or how many views, but the demographic of my followers. I actually doubled my followers in about 90 days because I realized who my audience was and what they wanted to hear. So I just said, okay, this is who's following me. This is why they're following me. When I post this type of content, I get more engagement. So give the people what they want. And then I started thinking about, now, how do I monetize that? Because for me, I realized that most of my followers on my Instagram were not my potential buyers and sellers. They were other real estate agents. Yeah. So I just started talking to other real estate agents, and I started saying, well, how can I make that a pillar in my business and in my income? And now I've created another account that is specifically for buyers and sellers. So Now I'm growing that one, and it's got a whole different type of content. And I love what you say and what you teach is think about what they are doing. We often make it about ourselves. Mm-hmm. What's important to me, my kids are important to me, and all of that is important. That's great the way you broke down the percentages, but what's important to them? What are they doing when they wake up in the morning? What are they doing when they're laying in bed and scrolling through? And, if my potential buyer or seller is on their phone at 10 o'clock at night, what are they thinking about? What are they searching for? How do I give them that?
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is too many people are creating content. Again, they don't have data or strategy based on what they believe the conversation should be on what serves them. And the truth is, you should be joining conversations that already exist. It's much easier to meet them where they already exist, instead of trying to create from scratch a whole conversation that you think is relevant or interesting or entertaining to people. So I think it's like a party. Have you guys ever been to a party where you walk up and somebody tries to change the subject? You're like, oh boy, like there was a nice rhythm going and everybody's having a good time. Somebody just shifts the subject. That's what most people's content looks like. And that's why nobody engages with it. If you look at 90% of real estate agents across the country, they're just getting little to no comments, little to no likes, very little shares or bookmarks. And it's because they're just trying to cram their agenda, their creative concepts onto other people. And they're probably not doing it in the right way. You know what I think would be helpful? I know the average podcast, people listen 17 minutes. So we're 29 minutes in, which means if you're still here, you are hardcore, you are dedicated, and you probably want to grow and learn. So I think this could be really helpful, is the process that people use to create better content. Let me give you an idea. Once you build your data, once you build your strategy, this is something you can do immediately and create more success in your content. Number one, impact. You have less than 2 seconds to get the average consumer's attention. Here's why. Everybody's trying to decide, do I want this or do I not? 1, 2, no. 1, 2, no. 1, 2, not interesting. 1, 2, that's weird. 1, 2, doesn't relate, right? 1, 2, 2 seconds, 2 seconds, 2 seconds. We're trying to get them to stop and go, that's interesting, right? So what is if I go look at your content right now, if I go study your content, what am I going to find in the first 2 seconds? That's where people get embarrassed. They say, Buck, don't go look. Don't go look. Because you know what I see? You know what I see when I go look? Hi, everybody. I just came on here for a second because a lot of you have been asking. And the weather is so nice, right? Everybody is doing what we call pleasantries in the first 2 seconds. Everybody is trying to find what we call common ground. Hi, how are you? What are you doing? Okay, by the way, not everybody sounds like a valley girl. I'm being a little exaggerated. But seriously, most people are like, hi, everybody, how are you? It's so great, blah, blah, blah. The day is vomit. Everybody's swiping. I don't even care how valuable what you're saying is. Get to the point. Number one, impact. Create impact. Let's go. Hey, how many of you want more of this? That was less than 2 seconds. Did I get your attention? Of course I did. You want that, right? Because I know my target. My target likes money, right? You want wealth, okay? So that's number one, is think about who is the consumer, know exactly how you should create, and do it within 2 seconds. Get the attention. The next thing you need to do is you need to add value. Value. Why? I'll tell you why. Impact with no value is called clickbait. Say that one time if you're watching the podcast or listening. Impact with no value is called clickbait. You got my attention and then you delivered nothing. So now I don't trust you. The next time I see you, am I going to hold or swipe? Nah, they already got me with this. I'm not doing this again. I stopped. And then they didn't say anything that pertained to me. They didn't teach me anything. They didn't inspire me. They didn't motivate me. So be really intentional about adding value. The next thing you want to do is why you? Credibility. I'm going to run out of space here, but credibility, credit, street cred. What's your street cred? Credibility. I write like a doctor. People always yell at me. I don't even need to write this. I'm just trying to make a list for you guys. Credibility. Why you? There's a lot of people that do what you do. Okay, so explain to me in a very short amount of time why I should get value from you. What experience do you have that means you actually know what you're talking about? Not how many years you've been doing it, maybe how many lives you've changed, maybe how much revenue you've created in a particular zip code, how many families you've helped grow, or how many dreams you've made come true. Get really intentional. The other thing to think about is third-party validation. So if you want earned equity, is getting other people to talk about how great you are. Put that into your content. And then number 4, this is the biggest point. If you're trying to structure your content and win, I want you to think, by the way, this is a $10,000 mastermind. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm just giving it away for free because I love you guys. Justin says, hey, Buck, I want you to come give a free $10,000 mastermind. I'm like, okay. Anything for you guys. Anything for Stephanie.
We love you, Buck. We love you, man. This is amazing.
Okay. Good. I hope it's helpful. Last piece, I always say 90% of the people watching this aren't going to do anything with it. They get inspired by it. They're like, oh, that does make sense. And you know what they do? The same thing that, hi, everybody, how are you? They go right back into what they were doing. They don't change a thing. They're like, oh, that makes sense. And then, okay, well, then why wouldn't you shift the way you do things? Why wouldn't you learn from it? Call to action is the last piece to this. CTA. The call to action is always transactional. Most people talk about what's in it for me. Hey, do me a favor and call me. Do me a favor. If you want to, build the dream house that you've always wanted, let's start working at it. Give me a call. Okay, that is taking. Call to actions are transactional when you take. We want to give. We want to give in our call to action. How do we do that? Okay, let's look at this. Here are 3 things you could do to your house to increase the value before we ever even put it on the market. There's just 3 easy things, and I want to give them to you. Okay, that's giving. That's not call me so we can work together. That's I'm adding value and giving you something that I know you actually would be interested in and need. So too many people are just trying to go straight to business. I call this kissing on the first date. Stephanie, I know what kind of woman you are. You would never kiss on the first date. You would never do that, right? Neither do consumers. They don't know you. Don't get frisky with Stephanie. She doesn't know who you are. The consumers are the same way, right? You go out to a date, right? They're like getting to know you. You got to give them flowers. The call to action is a flower. You got to say, hey, I respect you. I trust you. I'm not trying to take advantage of you. I just want you to win, right? That's relationships. Build a relationship. Look, people talk about closing deals in social. I don't. I will drive about 1.2 million off of Instagram alone. But I don't drive it directly like e-com in the DM. I drive it off of new relationships where I meet people. Where there is an exchange of value in a relationship, there's always revenue. Always. But you got to have the relationship first. So the call to action is not to close a deal. It's just to make the connection. It's just to make the relationship come to life. I call it boiling the water. There's a sea of people watching you all in the ocean, and you got to boil it to get them to come to the top and go, today's the day. I need to talk to Justin. I saw that clip. I've been meaning to talk to him. Today's the day I'm going to DM him. Stephanie finally got me with the tomato farm. I got to ask her a question about, hey, I was thinking if I wanted to have this kind of lifestyle, I have 3 questions. She's got to know I've seen her content. But if we're being transactional, they're never going to say, today's the day I want to reach out to Stephanie, because they think she's just trying to sell them. And nobody wants to be sold to. By the way, we're all smart. All consumers are smart. My own mom, who's in her 70s, she knows when something's ChatGPT. She can feel it, right? Like everybody knows now what's real and what's fake and who's being sold and who's not. So like genuinely want to help people create relationships in your call to actions. And look, you're good at what you do. You're a salesperson. You're going to convert deals if you can get the relationship. Too many people try to skip the first step, So again, I went deep, but I hope that was helpful.
Something you shared there, Buck, that I think is really interesting is that there is a lot of emphasis right now on artificial intelligence. Mm-hmm. And I do believe that there are some ways that it enhances us. Mm-hmm. However, one thing that I also think is happening is that people are looking to replace themselves with artificial intelligence, which is making them sound very artificial. And I think that unless you use artificial intelligence very intelligently and cause it to feed you ideas that then you put in your own words, that then allow you to deepen relationships with people. And I love how you keep talking about that, because we know from personal experience that even just interacting with you prior to this podcast, for you, social media is a place where you build relationships. It's not just a megaphone where you're trying to talk to the world and get attention, but you're actually deepening relationships. That's why we were so excited to have you on, is because you've taken this that's becoming more and more an artificial vehicle and becoming very, very real with it. And that's very empowering to us. Stephanie, what thoughts do you have as we get ready to wrap up the conversation today?
Well, a couple thoughts. If you made it past 17 minutes, you are doing yourself a huge favor. You
got the good stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I benefited, so I hope other people were listening, but I'm benefiting. So
good.
I'm happy about that. And I will admit that I did post about the weather this morning, so I think I'm a little embarrassed.
Don't let me go watch. Now, unless your clients like to hear your updates about the weather, that'd be different.
I actually got 3 DMs since posting that in my stories. So
Data. I can't argue data. You got 3 DMs that could turn into business, I think the word is pleasantries. So we're taught, because we have manners, we're taught to say, hi, how are you? Where are you from? Boy, this weather. We're looking for common ground. And it's good. It's a good skill to have in person. It's a horrible skill online. And we just don't know it because who's out there teaching this? So everybody thinks that you got to go, hey, everybody, hope you're doing well. How are you feeling? It's Saturday, right? Everybody's got like what day it is. Like we know, you know. But yeah, I mean, look, Stephanie, if it works, I'll never argue. People say, Buck's a marketing expert. I say, no, I've done it for a long time. I can speed the process up, but I'm a data marketer. People say, Buck, should I do this or this? And you know what my answer is? What does the data say? Let's do both and see who wins. I'm never like, this is what you should do. This is all you're supposed to do, right? Very intentional. Let's figure out what the data says wins first and go from there.
Well, like you said, it's not about what you say, but how you say it.
That's
and
it.
When I'm thinking about what's my audience thinking right now, they're thinking, dang, we had some great weather here in Oregon and now it's pouring down rain and I want to get out there and work in my yard. And I was excited about summer in Oregon.
Relatability.
And my audience is thinking about the weather for
Right.
sure.
That's right. That's great. Well, Stephanie, Justin, I appreciate you guys having me on. And I just want to, just congratulate you guys on the success you've had. And the, podcast, the record is 3 podcasts and people bail. On average, they do 3 and you guys are committed. You have really proven success with this format. So I just want to congratulate you on that. And thanks for having me on.
It's been my pleasure, Buck. Our pleasure, really. Of the 400 and some odd episodes that we've done, this one will be a memorable one that we will not forget and we'll be directing people to for a long time.
Thank you.
Let's wrap up with one final question that we call our signature question. You're obviously a big thinker, have personal relationships with some of the biggest brands in the world, right? What does Buck Wise do to continue to be a big thinker, to continue to expand your possibilities?
Yeah, good question, Justin. I look for fear. If I wake up and I'm not afraid something's wrong, why am I not nervous? Why am I so comfortable today? And so the question I would ask your audience is, if you knew failure wasn't an option, what would you do today that's making you afraid to do it? And so if we get comfortable, that is the end of growth. And so if creating content is your fear, showing your face, today's the day. Let's make some content today. Let's get some muscle memory. Let's break through that barrier. And I promise you this, and I've never been proven wrong. Any fear that you can find, if you blow through it, you'll always have success on the other side. You may not have the outcome you thought you would have, be careful. But you will find success on the other side of fear. Without it, you will never create any success. Staying safe and comfortable.
Such a beautiful answer. Absolutely beautiful. Buck, again, it's been such a pleasure. I want to thank you and I want to thank our audience for tuning in today, whether you've been with us here live or whether you're tuning in after the fact on the podcast. Buck, one more reminder of where they go find out more about you and get in business with you.
I can't stand how passive social is, because I'm going to say, follow me on Instagram at AboutBuck, ABOUTBUCK, and I'm going to get a trickle. I'm going to see when you publish this, I'm going to get a little trickle. There's going to be some people that start following me, and they're never going to say hi, and they're just going to watch quietly, right? So here's my rule. If you reach out to me, I want you to do it with a video in my DMs. I want you to say, hi, my name is Chris, Sarah, Jess, whatever your name is. And I saw you on Justin and Stephanie's podcast. It was amazing. And tell me what you do. And my promise to you is free advice. Any question you want, I'll give you free advice back. And I'll send a video back to you too. I'm not Tony Robbins size yet. I can still send videos back to people. Now, one day I can't make that promise. One day I'm going to have 1 billion followers and there's no way I'm going to be able to respond to everybody. But right now, I get about 20 to 40 new followers a day and I respond to each and every one of them.
I love it, Buck. Such a great opportunity for everybody listening here today. And again, my final request of all of us are these 3 simple words, and they are go think bigger. Buck, thanks for asking us to do that, my friend.
Thank you, guys.
Before you go, we've got one more invitation for you. We all know that listening to a podcast is not enough to help you to become a big thinker and high achiever. We must take action. So the very first step, think about one lesson learned from this podcast that you'd like to apply and send it to us in the form of a direct message at Think Bigger Real Estate. We look forward to hearing from you and